In 1983, Australian agronomist Tony Rinaudo came to Niger to bring back the trees. But within 2.5 years, his plan had completely failed. Then he did something agronomists almost never do. He stopped planting trees. Instead, he began tending old stumps. People couldn't understand why anyone would waste time on something long considered dead. Yet a few decades later, that decision restored more than 5 million hectares of land without a single new tree being planted. And the reason behind it was far stranger than it seems. By 1981, when the 23-year-old agronomist from the state of Victoria flew into Maradi, the Sahel region had already lived through 2 decades of catastrophe. The French colonial administration had taught farmers to clear their fields of anything that wasn't a crop. Trees were cut down and burned to prepare the land for the hoe. The government of independent Niger continued the same course. Manuals on modernized farming stated it plainly: stumps in a field are weeds. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. First, there were simply fewer trees. Then the shade that cooled the soil disappeared. Then the soil itself began to fly away, carried off by wind and water. The average tree density in the Maradi region fell to 4 per hectare. Thousands of hectares had none at all. Rinaudo saw this and understood the task. Trees had to be planted, just as dozens of organizations had done before him. Within 2 years, 80 to 90% of all the seedlings had died. Those that survived were eaten by livestock or cut down for firewood by hungry farmers that very night. Rinaudo did the math. Over those years, roughly $60 million in various forms of aid had been spent on planting trees in Niger. The result was a handful of surviving plantations, a drop on the map of the Sahel. At that pace, restoring the region would take centuries. Meanwhile, everything around was dying. In the early 70s, the rains simply didn't come. The Sahara moved south, not metaphorically but literally. The desert was swallowing kilometers of land every year. Farmers described the dust storms as a wall. First visibility drops to a few dozen meters, then to 0. Livestock died in whole herds. When Rinaudo arrived in 1981, those consequences still stood in the landscape. Not as a memory, but as daily reality. Fields without a single tree. Soil that lifted off with every gust of wind. And there were more and more people. Niger's population had grown 5-fold since the 50s. More people on worse land. The plant he was examining bore the Latin name Philostigma reticulata. The locals called it Ecological. Rinaudo had studied the local trees and recognized the leaves. The shape wasn't that of a bush. At the base of the plant was a hacked-off stump. A tree that had been felled years or decades earlier had sprouted again. When a tree is cut to the ground, the above-ground part disappears, but 30 to 50% of a tree's biomass lies underground. The root system, with its reserves of moisture and nutrients, remains alive. Rinaudo would later compare it to a V8 engine, running and idling, ready to roar to life. The solution turned out to be elementary. Don't plant new trees, protect the shoots already growing from the stumps. Prune away the excess stems, leaving the 2 or 3 strongest. Remove the dry branches. Keep the livestock away. 5 years later, a full-grown tree. The method would come to be called FMNR. All that remained was to convince the farmers to try. The process itself took a few minutes per stump. A farmer would approach with a knife, an ordinary household knife, nothing special, and examine the shoots growing from the base. He would choose the 5 straightest and strongest. The rest he cut away. The cut shoots were left on the ground. They decomposed and returned nitrogen to the soil. Then, once a season, he would come back and remove new side branches from the selected stems so that the root's energy went upward, not sideways. From the very first year, the farmer had firewood from the trimmings. From the second, branches thick enough to sell. Rinaudo went around 12 villages asking for volunteers, 1 in each. Someone who would agree not to touch the stumps in a corner of their field and simply watch what happened. 10 or 12 people came forward. The very next day, their fellow villagers gave them a nickname, The Crazy Farmer and His Ridiculous Trees. In a deeply traditional society where survival depended on behaving like everyone else, any deviation from the norm was perceived as a threat. At night, people came to other men's fields and chopped down the stems that had grown during the day, sometimes out of a need for firewood, sometimes simply to stop the one who stood out. Rinaudo himself didn't know how long it would last. He kept driving out to those fields, counting shoots, recording what survived. By then, he had spent 2.5 years reporting to his organization, SIM, on results that were hard to call results. Trees were dying. Money was being spent. Colleagues on other projects had the same figures, 80 to 90% seedling losses, and no one was particularly surprised, because that's how it was everywhere. Always. But Rinaudo knew this wasn't just the failure of one project. The entire approach was wrong. Across the Sahel lay 370 million hectares of degraded land, and no organization in the world, with any budget, could plant them all with trees, even if every seedling survived. The scale of the problem and the scale of the solutions existed in different universes. He would later say that at that moment, even before the stump by the road, he was ready to give up and go home, because he saw no way forward. And the way found itself. By the end of 1983, trees stood in the fields of those 10 farmers, alive, and not one of them planted by anyone. And then something appeared that Rinaudo hadn't planned. The 10 farmers who had agreed to try had one more advantage over their neighbors besides the trees. During the dust storms, and they came several times a season, their fields lost less soil. Even young trees provided enough anchoring to hold the topsoil in place. After every storm, once the dust settled, the neighbors would look at 2 adjacent fields. And then came 1984, the year that changed everything forever. The famine of 1984 struck the entire region at once. There was almost no rain, and the harvest barely came up. In those same 12 villages, the farmers who had laughed at Rinaudo 2 years earlier now stood in line for food aid. It was distributed by CM, the very organization Rinaudo worked for. The government allowed it to hand out food not for free, but in exchange for work. The model is called food for work, and usually people dug canals or repaired roads for their rations. But Rinaudo proposed a different kind of work. Want your next ration? Preserve and tend 40 trees per hectare of your field. The very trees the whole village had been laughing at just yesterday. Rinaudo himself admits it wasn't an ideal development model. People did it for food, not out of conviction. But the program covered 100 villages, 70,000 people, about 12,500 hectares. On every field, the trees were counted and checked monthly. In the autumn of 1984, a good new harvest came in, and roughly 75% of the 500,000 trees that had regrown that year were immediately cut down. Thanks, Tony, we'll take it from here. But a quarter of the farmers kept their trees. 2,000 to 3,000 people across the Maradi region, enough to support one another, ignore the neighbors' mockery, and see with their own eyes that under the trees the crops looked better on dry days. Because there was shade and a shorter walk for firewood. That core began to grow. From 1985 to 1999, Rinaudo organized training days for NGOs, foresters, Peace Corps volunteers, and delegations from other districts. He sent his farmers to other villages to show, not to tell. Results kept appearing, but how far the method had spread, he didn't know. In 1999, Rinaudo left Niger and joined World Vision in Australia. For 5 years, he heard nothing about his trees. But it was only quiet on his end. In Niger, nothing had stopped. The farmers who had adopted the method kept going. Those who had cut down their trees after the 1984 harvest spent a few more seasons watching their neighbors, and some of them came back to the method. Because every year they saw the difference with their own eyes. A farmer who tended trees had firewood, shade, a better harvest, and something to sell. That was enough. And when researchers began asking farmers where their trees had come from, something strange emerged. In certain villages, the answer was, "We've been doing this for ages." No agronomist had taught them. They had never heard the name Rinaudo. Someone at some point had simply been too lazy or too reluctant to chop out the stumps in his field, saw what grew, and left it. In other words, the same method had been discovered in Niger several times, independently and by some, even before Rinaudo ever flew to Africa. He didn't invent FMNR. He gave a name and a system to something the land itself was nudging toward anyone willing to look. The underground forest had been waiting for this for decades, long before the flat tire on that road. 20 years after the project closed, Rinaudo returned to Maradi. He drove the same roads along which he had once hauled seedlings destined to die, and now trees stood on both sides, in the fields of villages he had never visited. No one here remembered his project. In his notes, he would write dryly, almost matter-of-factly, "The method is spreading without any external support." In 2004, he was found by a Dutch researcher, Chris Rege, a specialist in the restoration of drylands. Rege had just returned from a road trip across the whole of Niger and wrote to Rinaudo the moment he got back. They met. Rege put his pen down on the table and said, "Tony, this is incredible. I've been coming here for 30 years. There are trees everywhere." Rege initially estimated the area at 1 million hectares, but then he passed the data to the United States Geological Survey. There, they compared satellite images spanning decades. The result, 5 million hectares. A forest that had spread on its own, with no central management and no external funding, from farmer to farmer, at a rate of 250,000 hectares a year for 20 years. Rinaudo would later say the figure didn't sink in right away. 5 million hectares is larger than Switzerland. It is more than everything any organization with any budget has ever planted in Africa in the entire history of reforestation. And it happened without him. While he traveled to conferences in Australia, explaining to donors why small projects deserved funding, farmers in Niger kept pruning shoots, protecting stumps, and telling their neighbors. Without reports or budgets, what he had considered fragile and unfinished became the largest agricultural restoration in the history of Africa. The scientific community's reaction was an uncomfortable one. It turned out researchers had been collecting data in the Sahel for decades, but measuring the wrong things. They counted seedlings, plantation survival rates, hectares, and official forestry programs. No one systematically counted trees on farmers' fields, because it was assumed there weren't any there and couldn't be. When the U.S. Geological Survey compared images from 1975 and 2003, the difference was so obvious that one researcher would later write, "It was one of the greatest hidden successes in the history of conservation science." Hidden not because anyone had concealed it, but because no one had thought to look there. Tree shade lowers the midday surface temperature of the soil to 35 degrees Celsius. In the Sahel, open ground without trees heats up to 72 degrees Celsius, a temperature at which seedlings die. The Phaederbia albida tree fixes nitrogen and performs bioirrigation. At night, its roots draw water from deep below and release it into the upper layer of soil, where the crops grow. It was under the trees that crops looked best in dry years, and every neighbor could see it. Farmers who practice the method harvest 50% more grain. Income from selling firewood and fodder adds hundreds of dollars per household per year in places where there had previously been none at all. Niger now produces 500,000 tons more grain per year than in the 1970s and the 1980s. Some 2.5 million people are no longer on the brink of famine. Conventional tree planting costs from $8,000 to $18,000 per hectare. FMNR in its project phase, from $20 to $50. Once the idea began spreading among farmers on its own, about $2 per hectare. At the UN climate talks in Katowice in 2018, it was officially recorded 6 million hectares of land in Niger have been restored using FMNR, 240 million trees. The re-greening is visible in satellite images from space. In the Aguié district in southern Niger, where in the early 1980s there was practically not a single tree, there are now 103 to 122 trees per hectare. The timber is sold not only locally but across the border into Nigeria. 5 species of native fruit trees are bearing fruit again. Some of them had not been seen in these parts for over 40 years. The springs came back. Where the groundwater level had dropped through erosion, the trees gradually raised it again. With the trees came insects, and after the insects, birds. Farmers say the sound of the fields has changed. Something else changed too, something no agronomic plan had foreseen. In the districts of Niger, where FMNR spread most widely, the number of conflicts between farmers and nomadic herders fell by 70%. The reason is simple. Conflicts between them almost always arose over resources, fodder, water, and fuel. When there are more resources, the pretext for a clash disappears. More trees mean more fodder leaves for the herder's livestock. More grass under the trees. A higher water table. The farmer no longer defends every scrap of land from other people's animals, because the field feeds him without that. The herder does not drive his flock onto a sown field at night, because there is somewhere to graze by day. No one planned this. It simply happened once there was enough land to go around. Tony Rinaudo is 69 today. He travels to Washington, The Hague, Nairobi, and Canberra, explaining to governments what a tree in a farmer's field really means. After the Right Livelihood Award in 2018, the scale changed. In 2020, the World Economic Forum included FMNR in its 1 trillion trees restoration program. In 2021, World Vision became an official partner of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. In 2025, Rinaudo received the Luxembourg Peace Prize for his outstanding contribution to environmental protection. Today, the method is used in at least 40 countries. The U.S. Geological Survey has recorded that in 11 countries from Senegal to Malawi, the total area under FMNR has reached 24 million hectares. World Vision has identified 4 catalyst countries: Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and Zambia, where they are now trying to replicate what happened in Niger on its own. A movement, a farming practice passed from neighbor to neighbor. The goal Rinaudo names out loud: 1 billion hectares of degraded land by 2033. By his calculations, 1 billion hectares of new trees could absorb up to a quarter of all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere while the forest grows. But Rinaudo says the hardest part is mines. In Niger itself, the method keeps spreading even without outside incentives. Young farmers who grew up on the restored land know no other way of farming. To them, a tree in a field is not an experiment or a concession to an agronomist. It is simply part of the field. 90% of what I do is regreening mines, not landscapes. Convincing a farmer that a tree in his field is an asset, not a competitor. Convincing a government that a century-old colonial law can be changed. Convincing donors that a $2 per hectare method is worth funding. In that field in 1983 stood millions of stumps. Every farmer, every agronomist saw them. No one stopped except the man with the flat tire.